Alright, so we're picking back up where we left off here. This is, again, the last hard example that I'm going to show you here. The reason why it's hard is because we're going to have to use, what we're doing is we have all three sides, but finding an angle with cosine invert, or with our law of cosines is actually pretty difficult because we're going to have to keep our order of operations straight and then also use the inverse cosine in order to get the angle. So we'll go ahead and get started. So I hope you guys set it up. Maybe tried to at least get the formula filled out yourself for at least picking one of the angles. So what happened was I just happened to pick U. You could have picked whatever angle you wanted, but since U is an angle I'm going to solve for, that is what I put in. So if you remember your formula, you would have a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2 times bc cosine of a. Here, basically, we're just calling a u instead. And so that means that the number that goes over here is going to be the side that's opposite of u. So just making sure I'm clear about how we plug things in. So I plugged in the opposite side here of the angle that I'm looking for. Then I filled in my other two sides that I know as my b and my c. So then minus 2 times b times c. That's how we set it up. From here, it's just keeping our order of operations straight. So go ahead and pause it. Try to solve it yourself. And then once you think you have it, go ahead and press play, and then you'll see how I did it next. Alright, so here are my calculations. My first step was just doing my exponents, and then I also did my multiplication here. Remember, think of cosine of u as a number. So we've got like a coefficient times, this is going to be a number, because remember, the answer to a trig function is a ratio, and ratios are numbers. So did our order of operations first for the exponents, got my multiplication done too. Then we go ahead and add. So next in our order of operations is adding. This is the only addition that I can really do right now where I have like terms that I can add. I cannot add I cannot take the 313 and minus 312 because this number and this term, so these are like two terms. This term and this term are not like terms, so I can't just combine them. So what I'll do instead is I'll subtract 313 because the idea is I want to get u by itself, so I'm getting rid of all the non-u terms. When I do that, I get my negative 192, and so then this term, keeps its negative sign, and then to get u by itself, I'll go ahead and divide by negative 312. When I do that, we got negative divided by negative, I get a positive 0.615 equals my cosine of u. So when I divided by negative 312, that went away, just left me with my cosine of u. And so now I've got another problem where I got to get my angle out, which means I'm going to use an inverse trig function. So how I do that is I'll do inverse cosine of this ratio. Note that it's less than 1, so we can plug it into our cosine inverse. And so when I do that and I put in my calculator, I get about 52 degrees for my angle u. Now again, you didn't have to pick u as your first angle. That's just what I decided to pick. So if you picked any other angle, it would have gotten set up similarly. You just would have had a different number set out front here, and then your b and your c would have been a little different too. But in case you did do one of your other angles other than u, I have included obviously the other angles. So from here, what I did was, since I used cosine, my law of cosines once, which guaranteed me to have an angle side pair. So I guaranteed that I would have an angle and a side opposite from each other. So now that I have that, I can use my law of sines now. So I'll go ahead and set that up. I set up my angle side pair with my sine of 52 over 11. So there we go. I decided to solve for O. You guys could have solved for whatever angle you wanted if you wanted to do H instead. So if I picked O, then I would have to put it over 12 because 12 is opposite of O. So from there, I plug this in my calculator. I get my 0.83 again. I guess picking O was a bad choice because it looks like a 0, but hopefully you've got your volume up and you know that this is an O, not a 0. So here, so what we'll do is we're solving for O, and to get O out, because O is an angle, so to get O out of our trig function, we do an inverse sine on that 0.83, and when we do that, we get an angle of about 56.1. So that's going to go there. So if you did your law of cosines, you still should have gotten something similar. If you decided to do law of cosines on O first, then you would have gotten something similar still. So once I plug that in, then I can go ahead and just use my triangle sum theorem, and I can get my other angle. Again, you should have gotten something similar to 71.9 degrees if you decided to use law of cosines on H first. And so with that, that completes the crash course on law of sines and law of cosines. I know it was pretty fast, so if you need to go back and maybe just look over stuff again, that's the beauty of a flip lesson video, so I encourage you to do that. And I will make sure we spend the whole class tomorrow going over a lot of examples, making sure we have it solid on when we use each law, and maybe some little tricks that help us get things done quickly and smoothly, and also make sure that our algebra is straight too. So with that, again, be ready for a homework quiz tomorrow. I want you to memorize those formulas, so make sure you're going, go back to the very beginning. And make sure also that you wrote down all the stuff that I showed you. Keep it straight in your notes. And because this is like the instruction that I would do in class. And so again, this should be all kept in your notes, and then we'll do some guided practice in class tomorrow, and basically just do homework in class to make sure that we have it all down, and I'll have a chance to maybe answer some questions you guys have too. So once I get back to that page here. So again, these first few slides are probably the most important. Definitely this one, because it has your formulas on it. And also, like I said, gave you clues on when to use these laws. And then hopefully you were following along for all the examples too and wrote those down as we went. So be ready for a homework quiz. And I will see you tomorrow. Bring lots of questions. Talk to you later. Bye.